What is up, guys, and welcome to the first episode of Dillos MMA podcast. That's gonna be a title pending. I don't know if it'll be the final title when everything is all said and done, but yep, it is the first episode of the MMA podcast that I am hoping to continue onward with. So, the first episode, we're gonna have a few things to talk about. First of all, let's just start off with who I am. I'll get into the topics, and then we'll start off with introductions. So, we'll start with introductions and then we'll talk about a few topics. The first topic of the day, we will end up talking about Invicta FC40. I know a lot of people, a lot of more casual fans were thinking, this week is before a UFC pay per view next week, and, there's no MMA events. It's dry, but that's wrong. There was indeed some MMA events, well, actually, one that I know of for a fact. It was Invicta FC40, Emily Ducote versus Juliana Lima. That happened on Thursday night, so we'll be talking about that. And also, we'll be talking about the UFC 251 card and some news that broke yesterday about that, as well as some other sadder news that broke yesterday that I won't say now, but I will talk about it because I think it's important to talk about it. And then I'll end the podcast off with a little message to MMA Twitter because I've been seeing some stuff happen and I want to talk about it. So, anyway, let's get started with just, who I am and how I started getting into MMA and how in such a short time I became an extremely knowledgeable fan and I just became such a huge fan of this, and I'm going to explain why I'm doing a podcast like this. So, just to start off, for people who don't know me, people who know me on Twitter know me as Dillo, but my actual name is Dylan Smith, and I'm from rural Ontario, Canada, around Brockton, Ontario, and I'm 22, gonna be 23 next month on August 5th. Yeah, I'm a young guy, and I haven't been an MMA fan for too long. I knew about the UFC, I knew about MMA, and I knew about some of the fighters back when I was younger, when I was like 13, 12, and all that shit, because my dad was into it. My dad liked UFC, my dad liked The Ultimate Fighter, all that stuff, so, I knew about it, but I wasn't a big fan of it at the time, which, now looking back on it, I wish I was, but I didn't get into MMA until I was probably in high school. And then I didn't become a fan of watching it and all that until after high school. I think it was maybe the victory lap year, like grade 13 that I took. I got into UFC and MMA, and the first event that I actually watched live, like not, I haven't been to any events yet, live in person. I really want to. That's one of my dreams, but I think the first event that I ended up watching myself live on TV was with my brother, and it was the Bisping versus Silva fight. And I remember watching Bisping getting knocked out and thinking that was it, but it wasn't. And then I remember watching Bisping rally his way to a decision win, which I think at the time both my brother and I were looking at each other like, what? Like, we wanted Bisping to win, but we were surprised that he ended up winning. But I remember watching that the first time, and I remember when I watched that event, I thought of how fucking awesome this was, and I just, ever since then, got right into it. And, like, ever since that first event that I watched, the Bisping versus Silva event, I was a huge fan. Like, there was no, like, in between where, how most people, they watch a sport and they're like, oh, okay, that's cool, I'll start getting into it a little bit more. I'll watch it with you a little bit more before I get really big into it. Nah, for me, it was like a total dive in, like some fucking OCD shit, where I got into this, and then as soon as I got into MMA and all that, I started watching top tens and videos and looking up the history of it and like the history of the UFC and shit like that. And I just started like flooding my brain with a bunch of knowledge, and that has essentially been what I've been doing for about, I want to say, almost 5 years now. So, yeah, I haven't been an MMA fan for long, but it's safe to say I'm not a casual. I'm a huge fan of the sport. Like, I absolutely love it. And that's kind of why I wanted to do a podcast like this because, I don't see enough MMA podcasts other than the big guys, So I wanted to start a MMA podcast for myself. And I'm hoping to get a co host sometime soon because I do want to have those conversations with, buddies of mine. I don't have many buddies around my area that are actually into it other than my brother, But, it'd be nice to have some pals on here from MMA Twitter and stuff that are really big into the sport as much as I am, so I can have those conversations. But for now, you're stuck with me and only me, and apparently my annoying Karen ass voice. But yeah, that's who I am. That's how I became an MMA fan. And yeah, I guess that's all you really need to know about me right now. Is just, I'm a huge fan. I haven't been a huge fan for long, but it doesn't really take long for me to become a huge fan of this sport. I was absolutely stricken. Like, I was in love with this sport the moment that I saw that event live on TV. And yeah, so if we want to move on from that topic, let's move on to Invicta FC 40, which happened on Thursday, July 2nd. As of recording this, it's July 4th. So, to all my American friends on MMA Twitter, happy 4th of July. And to the people who are saying fuck 4th of July, I guess, yeah, that too, if you want. I'm, like I say on my bio, I am MMA Twitter's residential fence sitter, so I just don't give a shit. Um, I do give a shit about all the Black Lives Matter stuff, but if you hate 4th of July or you want to celebrate the 4th of July, that's on you, man. It's the same with what they were doing during Canada Day as well. They wanted to cancel Canada Day. So, happy 4th of July to all you guys. I hope you guys fucking party hard. I know there's no MMA events on tonight to watch and get drunk with and, hang out with your friends, but, you don't need those events to have that type of fun, so go and have fun, drink and be responsible and just party with your friends, enjoy the fireworks, and just enjoy the time that your country kicked England's ass. So, let's get on with the event now. So, on July 2nd, Thursday, was Invicta FC 40. In the main event, we had Emily Ducote versus Juliana Lima. There were supposed to be 6 events originally. First event of the main card ended up being canceled due to one of the fighters actually having an illness related to their weight cut, which is understandable. In this sport, it happens. People can bitch all they want and say, oh, well, she wasn't professional with her weight cut. No, like, I don't think people realize how hard weight cutting actually is and how, vicious it is on your body. So, I understand that those things kind of happen, so I wasn't really pissed off about that or anything. So, it was a little upsetting that we didn't get the 6 fights that was intended, but we ended up getting 5 fights, and we started the card off with a debut of somebody, Shelby Korn, a young grappler, an absolute BJJ artist, against Gina Gooden. And before the fight even started, so the fight, the introductions on the card happen, and, they introduce Laura Sanko, my lovely mommy, Laura Sanko. I absolutely love Laura Sanko. They introduce the other 2 commentators, I forget their names. Everything's all good. They're introducing the show. They're showing all the fights and stuff. And then we're going into this Shelby Korn Gina Gooden fight. And, everything seems to be going swell. The walkouts happen. Both the walkouts happen. So it's not even just the one walkout. Both walkouts happen. No hitch. They get into the cage. And then the broadcast starts showing the tail of the tape. And, they show the tail of the tape. Everything's going good. No hitch. Right? So they show the tail of the tape, and as soon as the tail of the tape ends, in a typical MMA fashion during those events, after the tail of the tape shows, it starts to zoom in on the cage or the octagon. Well, as they were zooming on the octagon, boom, the fucking stream just goes black. Like, the stream just goes completely black. And at first, because I've had a history of just having absolute garbage internet, and, sometimes streams like to do that to me, I thought it was my stream, man. So I started fucking around with my stream, and then I refreshed the stream, and no, it was still the same. I exited the stream, went back into the stream on UFC Fight Pass, it's still the same thing. So I was like, alright, something's going on. So after a while, I went on to Twitter, and that's when my timeline was just absolutely blowing up. Everybody else was experiencing the same shit as me. Everybody on MMA Twitter that was watching the event simultaneously, including myself, was tweeting about this and wondering what the hell was happening. Like, did the broadcast just cut off and they don't know about it? Or, what the fuck was happening? So, we were all freaking out for probably a good, 5 minutes. And then finally, like I said, great mommy Laura Sanko came clutch and actually gave us an update on what was going on. Apparently, it was so hot in this church that they were doing the fights in. Yes, they were doing the fights in a church, in the PAL KCK church or some shit like that. Yeah, they were doing it in a church. So apparently, this church was so hot that the generator that was making the lights go, all the broadcast equipment go, and everything just short circuited and just poof went off. Like, it didn't blow up or anything, but it was so much that, you know, when a circuit breaks in your house and you have to flip it back on, that's essentially what happened with the generator. It took on too much and then it just decided it was giving up and it shut itself off. So apparently, for like a good, because we didn't even get this until like 5 minutes in, we got this clutch, and we got all this information. We found out that the generator blew, and then it was still like a good probably 15-20 minutes before we even got to the fights. So apparently, we're being updated by the commentators who are, you know, cage side as this is all going on. They were sitting there in the dark, and apparently, they didn't, like, they were offered to go back to their locker rooms. The fighters were. They were told, you know, you can go back to your dressing rooms and warm up again, before, you know, until we get this situation fixed. We'll do the walkouts again. And both of them were like, no, we don't want to go anywhere. We're already here. We're already warmed up. We're already pumped up. Let's just sit here and keep pacing back and forth and, you know, warming ourselves up until the lights come on and then the fight can actually happen. So apparently, during this whole like 15-20 minute debacle or more, probably 30 minutes as the time of the broadcast actually going down. So during this whole debacle, Shelby Corn and Gina Gooden are just staring each other down in the dark of night in this fucking church, just talking mad shit. Well, apparently, according to Gina Gooden, it was mostly Shelby Corn that was talking the shit. But yeah, so we don't even get to see these first fights yet. Nothing's happened, and here these guys are, or girls, sorry, standing across the cage from each other, just staring each other down, talking shit, and getting ready to fight. So after we all heard this, we were expecting some great shit, right? We were expecting absolute fireworks. Well, I have to tell you, when the fight finally came on, that fight ended up being just the most, well, not like fight of the year or anything, nowhere even near, but it definitely lived up to, you know, the shit that they were talking. They brought it. It was a technical grappling match that also had, like, you know, constant fast paced stand up, and it was a back and forth affair. It was just fun to watch. It was a really fun fight to watch. And then so that fight ended with a really weird scoring that ended with a unanimous decision for Gina Gooden. And yeah, I think it was Shelby Corn's debut. So yeah, she ended up going 0-1, but she did absolutely incredible during that fight. She just couldn't really capitalize on the ground. She did a lot on the ground. She just couldn't transition too well. She was throwing submissions in though. She almost had Gina Gooden at one point in the second round. There was at one point she locked in an armbar in the second round, and everybody, including the commentary team and the fans at home, saw Gina Gooden's arm like pop or something. But Gina Gooden, and I'm going to say this now a lot. I say this to a lot of people who want to know what my favorite fights are to watch in the UFC. So some of my favorite fights to watch in the UFC and in MMA, like MMA in total, are the smaller people. You know, flyweights, bantamweights, featherweights, lightweights, especially the women. The women just constantly bring it, man. It's no like, wow, I love to see a woman fight, it's so sexy type of thing. It's more of a, they constantly bring it, they leave their hearts out there. It's constantly fast paced. They're so fucking flexible, so they get out of the most dire situations, even if you're sitting there and you're like, oh my god, it's almost over, like, they're gonna lose. Then they just manage to get out of it because they're like a fucking snake somehow. And it's just incredible to watch. It's so fun to watch. And it's the same with the actual bantamweights and the flyweights and the men's divisions. They're probably not nearly as flexible as the women, but they're just as fast paced and as quick on the ground and as technical. And I love it. You know, a lot of people always say the flyweights suck. I personally enjoy watching the flyweight fights because once they get fast paced and back and forth, that's the type of shit you want to see. The only thing that they're missing is because there's not too much power to their shots. It's not a rocked back and forth affair like you'd see in the lightweight division and in the welterweight division and shit like that. So, you know, that's one of the biggest reasons why I like watching women fight. And honestly, if I wanted to tell someone that and show someone a fight, why I like watching the women fight. Two fights I have in mind would be either obvious. The obvious one would be Zhang versus Joanna, like Wei Li versus Joanna, and the other one would be this fight because this fight wasn't an all around banger, but it was a technical fight and it showed that both fighters left their heart in the cage and it was a constant, fast paced kind of back and forth affair. It was just a really fun fight to watch. So there was that, and then in the second fight we actually had Trisha Cicero. Sorry about that. Yeah, Trisha Cicero versus I think Laura Gallardo. It was. That fight wasn't as exciting. It was more of like Trisha Cicero doing a lot on the ground and a lot for striking, and Laura Gallardo just kind of laying and praying for most of the time. I didn't remember too much of the fight, but that was pretty much the whole fight. That was pretty much the story of the fight. Laura Gallardo just, every now and then taking Trisha Cicero down. God damn, Trisha's name is a fucking tongue twister to say. But it was just her taking Trisha down a couple times every now and then, not doing much on the ground, and it was mostly just lay and pray. So there wasn't really much to talk about that fight because Laura Gallardo didn't really do much, and Trisha Cicero did more standing and everything. She ended up edging out a unanimous decision win. I believe that was 29-28. But the next fight was one of the, other than the main event, it was the fight that I was excited for the most, only because of one thing, and it was because of Chelsea Chandler. Um, Obviously the casuals aren't going to know who Chelsea Chandler is. Honestly, I don't even think some of the more hardcore fans know who Chelsea Chandler is, but Chelsea Chandler is a really young women's fighter who's trained by the Diaz brothers. And let me just say, she acts and fights the exact way I thought a woman trained by the Diaz brothers would be. She's a cocky, foul mouthed woman who just, throws bombs and has an incredible submission game. And she, in just under, I think like a couple minutes, it was like a minute and 3 seconds, she knocked down her opponent with a couple of strikes. And then instead of finishing it with strikes on the ground, she just swarmed her opponent with fucking ground and pound and then took her back and then squeezed on the neck and didn't fully get the neck at first, and she just hung on until she got the neck and forced a tap in like under 2 minutes. It was so quick. And it was such an incredible like debut type thing coming from Chelsea Chandler because I was excited to see how she'd fight, and she came out like a fucking explosive firebomb. It was awesome. So it was the only finish on the card, but it definitely delivered. It was like the one of the only fights other than the main event that I was excited for, and like I said, it definitely delivered. In the next fight, it was in the co-main event. We had Alicia Zappitella versus Lindsey Van Zant. Not no before people start asking, no, Lindsey Van Zant is not a relative of Paige Van Zant or Mr. Vandervoort. She spells her name a little bit different than Paige Van Zant. Different girl. But this was another fight where it was mostly just lay and pray and Lindsey Van Zant doing stuff on the ground, but not doing enough to warrant a decision from the judges. Like it was a split decision and it was somewhat close enough that it could have went either way, but it wasn't controversial at all. The score was a 29-28, a 29-27, and a 30-27. The only score going to Lindsay was the 29-28. And like I said, it could have went either way, but it wasn't controversial at all because, like I said, you can make a big case for Alicia Zappitella when you watch the fight because Lindsey Van Zant didn't do enough. It was like the Shelby Corin versus Gina Gooden fight. You could argue, even though that was more of a set in stone type thing, you could argue if Shelby Corin did a bit more on the feet and got her takedowns a bit more secure, she could have, turned that decision to the judges easy because she did a lot on the ground as terms of submissions. It was just only that one armbar that really got through fully. And it was the same here. Lindsey Van Zant didn't do enough to warrant the judges on her side, and Alicia Zappitella did. And then we finally got the main event, which was Emily Ducote, who's a Bellator veteran, versus Juliana Lima, who's a UFC veteran. And maybe people will know who Juliana Lima is because, like I said, she's a UFC veteran in the strawweight division or whatever. But Emily Ducote is a Bellator flyweight veteran. She actually fought Alimale McFarlane, the current Bellator flyweight champ, and she's actually undefeated right now. She's 11-0. She's also the woman who completely dominated and submitted Valerie Latorno. So there's that. But yeah, Emily Ducote comes from Bellator, and her first fight in Invicta was a title shot, which she did not end up winning. But both of these women did not win their title shots. I believe Juliana Lima had one as well and did not win it. So this is kind of like a chance for them to win the number one contender spot. That was what was on the line in the main event. And it was a fun fight, actually. Like, again, one of the reasons why I like watching the women fight. It's just a constant back and forth, fast paced affair. The first round was Juliana Lima, and it was looking dire for Emily Ducote at first at the end of the first round and going in early into the second. But Emily Ducote came back and rallied, did enough on the feet, did enough with her takedown game and on the ground. And, by the end of the third round, because for those who don't know, unlike the UFC, other promotions who have non-title fight main events, they're three 5-minute rounds. But yeah, at the end of the 3 rounds, Emily Ducote ended up, inching out the decision, a full unanimous 29-28, and it was a fun fight just to watch. And I'm happy for Emily Ducote, and it's sad for Juliana Lima, but hopefully she rallies back from this, and hopefully Emily Ducote finds herself back in Bellator, and Juliana Lima finds herself somewhere else, or maybe even Emily Ducote ends up, winning the title in Invicta, and then finds herself in the UFC. Like, we don't know, but it was a fun main event, and it definitely had some contender implications for it. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of the next few Invicta FC fights, like some of the new future Invicta FC events, you'll see Emily Ducote fighting for the title or something. I won't be surprised if that's the case. But anyway, that was it for Invicta FC 40 for the most part. The rest of the card went off without a hitch. The only issue I had with the card was that co-main event because it was more boring than the Trisha Cicero fight. And I love grappling. I'm not one of those guys that's like, stand and bang, bro, or else it's not real. I don't mind grappling. I love technical grappling. I actually find some of the more technical fights where they're just scrambling on the ground and getting each other in crazy ass submissions and shit. I find that, sometimes more fun than just watching sloppy striking affairs. But when it's literally just lay and pray and you're not doing anything with your striking, kind of like you're tiptoeing away from each other, and when you do engage, you hold each other down a fair, kind of like Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou is like the best example I can give. It was exactly like that, and I nearly turned off the card after watching that. But after the fight was done, I was like, all right, we're going to the main event. We got one fight left. I can get through this, and it was worth it. But yeah, that was it for the only MMA event that's really known to the more casual hardcore fans that happened this week. That being said, that's it for Invicta FC 40 and all the talk about it. Just to finish it off, I see some title implications in the future for Emily Ducote, so I won't be surprised if I see her in a title shot. Yeah, let's move on to the next topic, which is actually UFC 251. I'm excited for this card because, first of all, it's the fight card that is going to be the first one on Fight Island. Or, well, it's Fight Island, and, because there's no video in this first episode, you guys don't see me. I'm doing quotes with my fingers because, like I said, it's Fight Island. It's probably not actually. It's a man made island. Let's be real. It's a man made island. It's the same place they had UFC 112 or whatever. Whatever the Anderson Silva versus Damian Maia one was, they had that in the same place. So, yeah, it's not actually a legit island. It's a man-made island. But yes, technically you can say Fight Island. But yeah, I'm excited for this card. There's 3 title fights. Well, 2. The third one, the main event, is in question, but we'll get to that after we talk about UFC 251. But yeah, there are, and we're gonna go with the 3 right now. There are 3 title fights going on this card. two right now that we know for sure are going on because of some stuff I'm going to talk about in a bit. But we're going to talk about the two that are actually going on and some other fights on the main card. Because, like I said, I'm excited for this card. So, other than the main event, we'll talk about that in a bit. The other two fights that are happening on the card is Peter Yanis, no Peter Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo for the bantamweight strap, and then versus Volk again for the featherweight strap. So I'm excited for both of these fights, but I have a little bit of a gripe with the bantamweight title shot, and I'll get to that in a bit. But let's talk about the Max versus Volk fight first. A lot of people have been saying they don't think this should be happening, that this fight should have been happening, and I don't agree. Yes, if you watched the first fight like the rest of us did, yeah, you can argue that Volk won all 5 rounds because he did. You could make an arguable case that Max maybe won like 1 round, but yeah, I don't know. Like you can easily say that Volk dominated that fight. So a lot of people are thinking, it may be the same result again. That may be, but like you have to give Max a chance because he's the second greatest featherweight in the division behind Jose Aldo. A lot of people are going to get mad at me saying that because, there's going to be McGregor nut huggers coming in saying, no, Conor McGregor is the greatest featherweight and you can't deny that. Just because he was, for the most part, undefeated at featherweight doesn't mean he was the greatest featherweight champion because he didn't fucking defend it. He didn't even defend his lightweight title. So, like, yes, he's a great fighter, one of the best fighters in the world, but nah, he's not the greatest featherweight in terms of champion caliber. It goes Jose Aldo and then Max Holloway, and then now Volkanovski. And I think the reason why I'm okay with this fight is because, one, it gives Max a chance to get his belt back if he actually comes to task and performs better than he did against Volk last time, because he's taller than Volk. He could use his reach. He could be more prepared for the takedowns and everything. The only issue is Volk is so fucking strong, man. So that might be an issue. But yeah, I'm okay with it because it gives Max a chance to get his belt back. But at the same time, if Volk beats Max again, and this time it's more, decisive, this will definitely, solidify Volkanovski in the GOAT picture. If he gets a couple more defenses, even if he hasn't beaten Jose Aldo, the fact that he beat Max Holloway twice, the man who decimated Jose Aldo twice, it's just it's a win-win. It's a win-win for both sides. Obviously, if Max loses, he's not going to get another title shot until he wins a contenders fight, which shouldn't be hard for him because, like I said, he's one of the best featherweights out there. But it's great for Volk as well because if he loses, he lost to Max fucking Holloway. There'll be a rubber match if that happens. Like if Max just manages to win by decision or he ends up knocking out Volk, some crazy shit like that, there's gonna be a rubber match, right? There's gonna be a third match lined up. So no matter what, if Volk loses, he gets another match. There's no doubting that. And if he wins, it solidifies his legacy as one of the best featherweight champions. And he can go on his merry way making title defenses and solidifying that more now that he beat the man who beat the greatest featherweight of all time twice, right? So I like the Max versus Volk fight. I'm excited for it. The first one was awesome. The second one is going to be even better because Volk's going to want to defend his title, and Max is just going to be absolutely fucking hungry to get his title back. So it's going to be awesome because Volk is a young, hungry challenger. He's got the title. He's going to want to defend it and solidify himself as a legitimate champion because, I go by the Matt Hughes rule. You're not a legitimate champion. You're a champion, but you're not a true champion unless you defend it at least once. So I'm excited because both guys are hungry and want it. And I have a feeling it's going to be a banger just like the first fight. I just hope, because I love both guys, but I love Max. I hope Max doesn't get dominated too bad, or I hope Max wins, because I can't see him get completely fucking smushed like he did last time. That was depressing. Going on to the next fight, though, the bantamweight fight, the title fight, like the last title fight. Well, actually, technically the first title fight on the card because the main event is the last one. But the first title fight on the card is a bantamweight fight for the bantamweight title, which is vacant because everybody knows Henry Cejudo retired after Uncle Dana wouldn't give him his money. But yeah, I'm a little iffy about this because I love Jose Aldo, I really do, and I do believe he does deserve the bantamweight title shot. But the fact that he lost against Marlon Moraes and he still got this title shot. I know a lot of people argued that Jose won that fight, and I'm sort of do too. But the fact that Peter Yan's not facing Aljamain Sterling instead of he's facing Jose Aldo instead, that just upsets me because I think Aljamain Sterling deserves it now. He showed it by just completely putting away Corey Sandhagen like that. Like it was quick, man. It was so quick. So I do believe that Peter Yan should be fighting him. So I want Jose Aldo to make a comeback and become the bantamweight champ and become a champ in two separate divisions. That would be awesome. But I want to see Peter Yan win because I want to see Peter Yan versus Aljo. I mean, either way, I'm not okay with Jose just getting the title shot handed to him, but I do believe he deserves to be there. But I guess I'm excited for it because either way, I'm gonna see Aljo face the champ, and Aljo's gonna finally get his fucking title shot that he wanted for so long. So I'm excited for that, man. That being said, like I said, I'm a little iffy about this fight because I feel like there should be another person staring across the octagon from Peter Yan, and not Jose Aldo. But at the same time, I'm okay with it. So, I'm not going to make too much of a big deal about it. I just wanted to get that out there because I have the same feelings as everybody else. Everybody else is iffy about Jose Aldo being in this title shot. So, just wanted to put that out there. But that being said, I'm really excited for this fight too because this one's going to be a fun one. We're not going to see too much, boring grappling. We might see some submission grappling here or there, but this I almost expect to be a full-on stand-up fight because we got Peter Yan, who's just an absolute incredible boxer. He's got great takedown defense, but he's a boxer primarily. He's got incredible knockout power, even with his feet, man. So I'm excited for that, and so is Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo is primarily a stand-up fighter, a Muay Thai fighter. So I'm going to see a lot of clinch fighting from Jose Aldo, some explosive kicks and stuff, and it's just going to be fun. I expect a back and forth striking battle between the two. So that's the reason why I'm excited for this fight. But I feel like they're handing Peter Yan the win. But I guess I won't count Jose Baldo out yet because I also love Jose. But yeah, and then on the card we have a very notable matchup, which, despite everything that's happening, considering the whole situation with the fucking strawweight division, you know, uh, Whaley, she's the champ now and everything. So, that whole thing's happening. I'm still happy that Rose is getting her rematch against Jessica Andrade because Rose was beating the absolute piss out of Jessica Andrade during the first two rounds until she got picked up and Rose was trying to go for, I believe, a guillotine or maybe an armbar or something. And she was really holding on to it, and Jessica just slammed her and ended up knocking her out by, like, I want to say pure luck, but it was a little bit of pure luck because most of the time you don't expect that from a slam, but at the same time it wasn't pure luck because of the way she slammed Rose on her head. It wasn't quite a spike, so it was legal, but she kind of technically spiked Rose on her head, which knocked her out. And I mean, like I said, that's kind of why it's not as much luck as you'd think, because it was also a bit of technique. She knew exactly where to dump Rose on her head. So, you know, I'm just upset about it. Let's be real. That's why I'm calling it a fluke. I'm upset about it. But I'm excited to see Rose get back into it since her loss against Andrade. And I'm excited to just see Rose finally get that one back because, like I said, I thought Rose was winning both rounds before that dump. So, I'm excited for this whole card, man. And even the prelims have some great fights. There's I think one or two other great fights on the main card as well. So this card is going to be incredible. But I know a lot of you and the people who are paying attention to the MMA media are probably going to want me to talk about this. But the biggest story coming out of this now is the main event. The main event is, for the most part, in jeopardy. Like I said, as of recording this, because I'm recording this on July 4th, there really is no news on what's going to happen for the main event. But the main event was originally supposed to be Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns for the UFC welterweight title, and that was going all well and dandy. And honestly, I was excited for that fight because I wanted to see Gilbert Burns light some shit up. I wanted to see if he had what it takes, right? But we got some upsetting news this morning, or not this morning, yesterday morning, as well as some other news that I'll get to at the end of this podcast. But we got some upsetting news yet. Well, not yesterday morning. It was more yesterday afternoon. We got this news. Gilbert Burns tested positive for COVID-19 after getting one of the swab tests before their charter flight. Because what happened was, and I think Rose actually explained this on Ariel's show last week, or this past week, because it's Saturday. It's still not the weekend, like not the week done yet. She explained that what was happening was the UFC, they get to a airport in Las Vegas, they get, I think, a swab test or something before they leave. They get their test results. If they pass their test results there, they go on the charter flight to Abu Dhabi. Once they land, they get tested again. And then once they pass their test, they get sent to their hotel room. And then as they're going to weigh in and get ready for the fights, they get tested one more time. And if they pass that, they're able to go weigh in and all that. And apparently, when Gilbert Burns was getting his first test at the airport, he didn't pass it. And he hadn't been feeling well, I guess. So the main event is kind of up in the air because he pulled out. But like I said, the reason why it's up in the air is because there's talk that Kobe wants his rematch against Kamaru Usman, his rematch from UFC 245, and Jorge Masvidal also wants a chance at Kamaru Usman, like he originally wanted, but turned down because of the money, as everybody knows now. So I don't know what's going on as of recording this. I don't know if Jorge is gonna, confirm that he wants to fight it, because Abe Kawa or whatever fucking Jorge's manager's name is, he came out and said that Jorge is 100% down to take the fight on short notice given the right amount. So we'll see what happens, if we'll see Kobe Covington versus Kamaru Usman too, or if we'll end up seeing, Usman versus Masvidal. Either way, I expect a banger. It's just right now, I'm a little worried about the main event because, like I said, it's up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen. Right now, all we know is there's no main event as of right now because they're still figuring things out. One half of the main event has COVID-19, and so we have to fill up that one half, and the other half doesn't even know what the fuck's going on. So, yeah, the reason why I wanted to save that for last was because that was a big thing, and that leads me into a question for those who are listening. I love seeing these events, but a lot of these people testing positive are testing positive because of their training partners for the most part. And that's just, that makes me think, should I know it might cost like a little bit more money, and that's the issue. So I'm not making a big deal about it, but you know, does anyone think that they should start issuing out those types of swab tests at the gym at least once or twice a week, just to make sure when they're in training camp and the people that you're training with in your training camp don't have it, so you don't contact it? That way you didn't just spend all that money on that training camp just to not have a fight to pay you so you can pay your training camp. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a lazy way of preparing for a training camp. You put in all that work, and you're fighting with all these sorts of people and sparring with all these sorts of people coming in, and you're not doing the proper tests, so you're at risk to get exposed to it, right? Because it's still not gone yet. I think personally that they should kind of start doing those tests, at least do the swab tests in the gyms. If you're doing a training camp, pay a little bit extra from your contract or your fight earnings for that, just to make sure you're safe and you end up going to your fights so you can get paid for your job. It's upsetting, but I think that's what they should do. But yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I kind of had a little bit of opinion on it, and I'm worried for the main event because I'm excited for the main event, but I don't know if it's gonna happen now, right? So Anyway, we're gonna be nearing the end of the podcast soon, but before we get into the MMA Twitter stuff, I just wanted to, you know, lay off the opinionated pieces and, the event reviews and shit. And I wanted to talk about something that happened yesterday. And it actually kind of, lops itself in to the COVID-19 talk of the last topic. But like I said, it's not going to be opinionated. It might get opinionated at the very end just for a tiny little short while, but it's mostly just more of a in memoriam type thing I want to do because yesterday, in the early hours of July 3rd, that morning, um, we got news from Dagestan that Khabib Nurmagomedov, the UFC lightweight champion's father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, he lost his battle with COVID-19 at the age of 57 yesterday morning. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this is just for one, I wanted to, I already put the tweet out there, but I wanted to publicly and vocally, put my condolences out there to the Nurmagomedov family, to Khabib, and Abdul Manap's, wife and everybody else in the extended family. I just want to, issue out my condolences to them and just my thoughts and prayers because I know what it's like to lose a family member, especially to an illness, that just comes kind of out of nowhere like that. And especially with this COVID-19, I haven't lost anyone to it yet, but I could just imagine how hard it was for Habib because that's the thing. The reason why I want to talk about this is he absolutely adored his father from birth to death. He just absolutely adored his father. His father was his inspiration, his coach, his dad, everything under the book. And it was so clear every time Khabib did an interview talking about him or with him that, Khabib really loved his dad. And he was really close with his dad. So I wanted to talk about this because I couldn't imagine what's going through Khabib's mind right now. And I had seen before this came out a lot of people accusing Khabib of ducking, um, you know, all the lightweight contenders and shit, and including Tony. And this is where the opinionated piece is going. I just wanted to say fuck you guys, and I hope you guys feel stupid now because it was always known that Khabib wasn't ducking anyone, but he couldn't go anywhere because of the COVID-19 restrictions. And if you guys think COVID-19 isn't real, then well, this I hope this is an eye opener for you guys because this it's real. It's a real virus. It's fucking out there. It's not gone yet. It's still killing people. You can compare it to the regular flu, but yeah, it's still more deadlier than the regular flu. We still don't know nearly enough about it yet as well. It's the same as when we went through with SARS back in like 2003, 2004, because it's the same strain. We don't know enough about it, so it's going to take a while, and it's as deadly as we think. So just, I'm not going to get into a ranting mode. I just want to kind of leave it out there. Just please take this COVID-19 shit seriously because people are still dying from this, and a lot of people, including some people on MMA Twitter, have lost family members due to this virus, and they couldn't see their family members or even go to their funerals because of it. So I just wanted to talk about this to put that out there and to, put my condolences out there to the Nurmagomedov family. It's gonna be a rough time, but I'm hoping for Habib to be able to get through it and the rest of the family as well. So my condolences, and the entire MMA community was showing their condolences yesterday, and I hope Khabib saw that the MMA community, even some of the haters, could put their differences aside and that they were showing their love yesterday. That we do truly love Khabib, no matter how much you may hate him or love him. We felt for him, so I just wanted to talk about that. So, anyway, getting into the final topic, the MMA Twitter bullshit. I'm not going to talk about too much of MMA Twitter drama because a lot of it was more personal than anything, and it was kind of, more controversial. But I wanted to talk about something, all right? Because I saw something yesterday, and like I said, as the residential fence sitter of MMA Twitter, I have to say something because, as the residential fence sitter, I usually don't pick a side. And even now, I'm not picking a side, but I had to put this out there. So, yesterday, somebody decided, and I'm not going to name names because, people who are involved in MMA Twitter know who it was, but somebody put out there that they were smoking a bowl during the fights, but the video was of them smoking a tiny bong, and they weren't even looking at the screen, not even remotely close. And, I've grown past that age now where I put smoking videos of myself out there. The last one I did was like probably when I was 21 when it was legalized in Canada, so October of 2018. I haven't done that since because I just think it's lame as fuck, and it is lame as fuck. And somebody actually retweeted that video that that person posted, not even being rude about it, just saying, why do people, like asking genuinely, why do people think this is cool? And that was when the entire community just started, retweeting this person's tweet and shitting on this person. And I actually was so surprised and so saddened that the fact that somebody even, made that that, that criticization about it pissed so many people off. Because as a stoner myself, and that's right, I do consider myself a stoner. I am someone who smokes weed on the fucking daily. Unless I'm working, I smoke in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night. I'll smoke up to like 6, 7 bowls a day or more. But like, of course, if I'm working, I usually smoke a bowl when I get home from work. But when I'm not working, I'm smoking fucking constantly. I can genuinely admit that I do feel reliant on it sometimes. I feel like I can't function at times without it, and I can't go out in public with my friends without it, which is sad to admit. But this is coming from me. If you post videos of yourself smoking bowls when you are past the age of like 19 or 20 years old, you are lame as fuck. And all you're doing is showing that weed is your personality trait. And I've got news for you, buddy. And like I said, this is coming from a stoner who, self admittedly has a problem. It's bad when that's your personality trait. It's not fucking cool. Your bong videos aren't cool, and making weed your personality trait is not fucking cool. It's lame as fuck. It makes you look childish, and it's annoying. That being said, I can't believe, because I thought this was just a common knowledge thing within the MMA community, especially those who smoke weed. Like, yeah, everybody knows that we smoke weed, but we don't make it a constant personality trait. And I thought it was well known that those who post those types of videos and literally go, hey, look at me, I'm smoking weed, am I cool, guys? Like, I thought it was just, a common knowledge thing between smokers, like potheads, that those people were lame wannabes and they're not cool at all. So like I said, I was saddened when I saw how angry everybody got. That being said, she made and I just kind of ruined who it was, but she made a simple tweet, a simple question asking, why do people genuinely think this is cool? And then everybody just started dragging this person for her appearance, started dragging her for drinking wine and everything, and got so defensive over weed. And I was so surprised with it. And that's where I'm getting at, is where the fuck are we getting when, and I have to say this, the group that was doing the dragging is the exact group that, is an advocate against bullying. So like I said, where are we going with this? Where the same group that's against bullying is absolutely bullying someone just because they had a genuine question about weed. Like, why do potheads think their videos of them smoking bowls is cool? Like, it's not. And like I said, I was really saddened to see that the supposed chill, relaxed vibe stoners, man, were absolutely dragging this girl's appearance for, making a simple statement about weed, which is 110% true. And when I made the statement, because I was the only one to defend this girl, I had people finally coming out of the woodwork and admitting, finally showing their pairs of balls and admitting to me, yo, you're right, man, I smoke copious amounts and even I don't make it my personality trait, and I think it's lame as fuck when people think it's their personality trait. So, that being said, if you're under the age of 18 and you're smoking weed, I don't condone it as much. It's like you shouldn't be doing that because you should be letting your brain develop. But if you're smoking weed and you do those videos, that's on you, man, because you're a young teenager and I get that. But if you're past the age of like 19, 20, You know, you're an adult now and you're still doing that shit and you're still making weed your personality. I I just have to say this. It's time for you to grow up, pal. It's really time for you to find something new, a different type of passion, a different type of personality trait. You know, everybody may think that weed's my personality trait. Nah, you know what my personality trait is? Shit posting and memes. I love to joke around and I love to troll people. That's my personality trait. I don't make weed my personality trait because it's lame as fuck. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. Anyone else who thinks that weed is a personality trait, you're lame as fuck too. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. I just wanted to do a quick little honorable mention because it's going up on an hour and I want to hit an hour. But I wanted to do a quick honorable mention about the event that happened last week, the Poirier versus Dan Hooker main event. That fight was fucking awesome. And the fight before that, let's talk about Mickey Gall versus Mike Perry real quick. We'll do like a lightning round of talking about these fights. Let's start with Mickey Gall versus Mike Perry. That was fucking hilarious. I have to say, that was fucking hilarious. Yet again, Mickey Gall, after coming off of what should have been a loss but was a win, is cocky as fuck again and ended up getting Mike Perry's balls dragged across his chin like Diego did to him, and it was absolutely beautiful. And the best part about it was that Mickey Gall had like an actual corner person in his corner, and Mike Perry beat his ass all 3 rounds from start to finish, from fucking pole to fence post, with his girlfriend in his corner who didn't really know a fucking thing about MMA. He did admit that she's got some training, she's got a little bit of grappling experience, and she did boxing, but she doesn't know a fucking thing about MMA, and her only criticisms were, "You look great in there, babe, you look great in there, bub." And, he was just replying with, "Thanks, my cupcake," stuff like that. And I just thought it was hilarious. That fight was just fucking awesome to fucking watch. I love Mike Perry, by the way. He is such an entertaining fighter to watch. He's such a crazy ass dude. And I just thought it was hilarious that he was crazy, but at the same time calm with his shots and everything. And he played such a perfect game plan that he just rubbed his balls all over Mickey Gall's chin until he gave him a fucking nice bukkake and made Mickey Gall look so sad. And I thought that was fucking hilarious. So I just wanted to talk about that because I thought it was awesome that he did all of that with his girlfriend in his corner. And I just wanted to ask a quick question. Do you think that's going to start, getting more fighters' girlfriends in their corners with this quarantine shit going on? Because, you're only allowed one cornerman. Do you think some of these fighters are going to try that now because they're like, whoa, well, Mike Perry won with his girlfriend in his corner. Maybe it'll work for us. Because I'm a little curious now. I thought that was really funny, and I saw a lot of fighters, obviously, jokingly, but some were probably serious about it, talking about how they should get their girlfriends or their wives in their corners because it would probably be better for them. So I thought that was hilarious, and I really enjoyed that fight. So I want to know what you guys think, too, because I really want to know what you guys think about his girlfriend being in the corner. I thought it was fucking hilarious, and I thought she did surprisingly good, despite she didn't really give any good criticism or constructive, advice. But like I said, she did pretty good for just not, having to do much in there. But yeah, we'll talk about the main event now because I'm probably going to talk more about the main event and I still got to do the closing off shit. So, the main event was an absolute banger. And honestly, I wasn't surprised because when the fight was announced a couple weeks before this event, I just immediately thought, I'm like, this is going to be absolute war. I don't like Dan Hooker because of the shit that he was saying about Max Rashkoff. But I saw this and I was just like, oh baby, this is gonna be a fucking war. This is gonna be fireworks, and I was right. I was 100% right. I knew that Dustin Poirier was gonna get it. Everybody thought that Dan Hooker was gonna win, but I knew that Dustin Poirier was gonna get it. I knew he was gonna win by decision. I'm so proud of myself for knowing that. But yeah, so let's talk about that fucking fight real quick because it was awesome. It was an absolute back and forth affair. Dan Hooker had some great exchanges, almost had Dustin Poirier a couple times. Like I said, Dan Hooker won rounds 1 and 2, and that's why, because he had some great exchanges with Dustin Poirier, won those rounds. And then after a while, he was still having those great exchanges, but Poirier just dug deep and started eating those shots, coming forward, backing Dan up, and doing a lot more on the feet. Had Dan rocked a couple times, and like I said, it's not confirmed, and I'm pretty sure he didn't break his jaw at all. But he was hitting Dan so hard and so much. By the end of the fight, Dan had his fucking mouth open, but not breathing heavily. Like his jaw was either broken or swollen, and like I said, I was so surprised with how Dustin Poirier rallied back. I knew he was going to win, but when I was watching the actual fight and I saw how Dan Hooker was fighting, I was a little worried for them. So I was really excited when I saw Dustin Poirier fucking rally back. But it was an absolutely awesome fight to watch. And honestly, if any of you guys listening have fucking UFC Fight Pass, I recommend going to watch that fight right now. It is an easy fight of the year contender. To me, I mean, this is probably going to be the opinion of a lot of people, but to me, the fight of the year is still Wei Li versus Joanna, because that was just a constant, non-stop, back and forth affair, no grappling, constant striking, and let's be honest, Joanna looked like a fucking caveman at the end of it, because that's how much Wei Li hit her and how hard Wei Li hit her. But it was such a great fight, so that is my fight of the year still. But Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier, definitely a number 2 contender, because it was an absolute awesome fight. It was better than the Josh Emmett versus Shane Burgos fight, and everybody knows how fucking awesome that fight was, because that fight was also incredible. So, yeah, I just had to talk about that real quick, not because I was running out of topics, but because I just really wanted to talk about it. It was such an exciting fight, and, even people are still talking about it, this next week later, so I just wanted to talk about, like, real quick, a little bit to kind of get the time up. But also, I just wanted to talk about it real quick because, like I said, it was an exciting event. So anyone who has UFC Fight Pass, I recommend going to watch that full event, but definitely the main event, because that fight fucking delivered, especially what we expected. That being said, it's getting to 56 minutes, almost an hour now, so I'll put an end to this podcast. But I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my annoying ass Karen voice. I hope the audio quality wasn't too bad using my Raisin Cracker. Fuck me. My Razor Krakens. I hope the audio quality wasn't too bad for my Razor Krakens. These are good headphones, but they aren't a recording mic. My actual podcast recording mic should be coming in either this week or next week, so the next episode or the episode after that will definitely have my next recording mic, better audio quality and stuff. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed listening, and, follow me on all my socials. Follow me on Dillo Ross on Instagram. That's Dillo with, I think, only 2 O's, maybe 1 O, and Ross with 3 S's. And follow me on Twitter at Dillo Ross, which is Dillo with 3 O's and just a regular Ross, just 2 S's. So follow me on those two, because I use my Instagram a lot, but follow me on Twitter because I am way more active on my Twitter. You can also follow me on YouTube. I will probably be posting like event reviews and stuff on there, because I'm going to try to get into an MMA YouTube channel on that. So that'll be Dillos Dojo, and I'll be leaving that in the description for the podcast, or you can just search it up on YouTube. You'll probably find my old videos, my gaming videos, my vlogs, because I'll be leaving those up for people to find my channel, but I'll be churning the channel into an MMA channel. So just follow me on all those socials, especially YouTube and Twitter, especially Twitter, because I am the most active on Twitter, and you'll be able to interact with me directly on Twitter because I'm on it the most. So yeah, follow me on Twitter. Again, that is at Dillo Ross. That is Dillo with 3 O's and just a regular Ross, capital D and capital R. And that's it. So for the fucking podcast, I guess this is the first episode, and this is Dillo, and I will see you guys in the next episode. I hope you guys enjoyed listening, and hopefully there'll be a guest on the next episode. So I'll see you guys later. Peace.